This is Intelligent Investing presented by Fidelity Investments. 2017 was a nearly unprecedented year for high returns for the S&P 500 with very little volatility. In fact, according to Fidelity Investments, through November of last year, the risk-adjusted rate for the S&P 500 was in the 99th percentile since 1926. So statistically, that should not happen very often, and it's very unlikely that it will continue as the stock market dropped at the end of last week and at the beginning of this week, and as volatility doubled very early this week. Jurrien Timmer, director of global macro for Fidelity, says the reason for the sell-off seems simple enough. The stock market has finally started paying attention to the bond market again. He says interest rates are an important part of equity valuations. As interest rates rise, we are discounting more the future cash flows of stocks and giving them less credit for that. Timmer says that bond yields have risen enough that now we can't ignore them anymore. The 10-year yield is now double what it was at its low in the summer of 2016. Before the correction, he says, things were starting to look a lot like 1987, where stocks rallying while yields were rising. In 1987, stocks rallied 40%, while bond yields also rallied 40%, and of course, leading to the giant sell-off that was referred to as Black Monday. Last week's correction, ironically, happened at the same time that consensus estimates for the S&P 500 earnings growth rose to over 20%, which is way up from where it was in August at about 12%. But Timmer says it's more logical than it seems because amid the euphoria of rising corporate earnings, it's been clear that both the equity and bond markets were being too complacent about the other side of that trade. Tax cuts could push the economy toward the overheating phase. If that happened, the Fed would likely raise rates with implication for interest rates in general. He says the silver lining is that the stock market is paying attention to the bond market again, instead of ignoring it and suffering a much worse fate later on, like it did in 1987.